So on May 30th, Geekdom 101 achieved 530,000 subscribers, and that's a very special number in Dragon Ball because it is the power level of First Form Frieza. And with that event happening, there was no better time than to bring this person to Geekdom 101, someone who I've wanted to speak to since I started doing this 3 years ago. He is with us today, often imitated but never duplicated. Please welcome voice voice actor, ADR director, writer, fight choreographer. We'll get to that in a minute. And for us in the English-speaking world, the definitive voice of Frieza, folks, it's Chris Ayres. I can't believe you're here with me.
Hey, I am so excited to be here.
You have no idea. I've been trying to talk to you for so long, and here we are.
I know, well, I've been sick for so long and been unavailable to talk, and I'm just grateful that Crystal helped set this up so that we could talk to each other.
Yes,
I'm actually talking to you on her computer.
Yes. Well, I'm very happy about that. So I will leave links now. Obviously, do you want to start discussing your illness, or do you want to just not really?
Well, we can go with however you want to. I mean, most people know that a little over a year ago, I almost died 3 times. I was diagnosed with end-stage emphysema, COPD, or end-stage COPD, emphysema, and almost died a couple of times in the hospital. That was kind of scary.
Whoa.
I've been in recovery and physical therapy. I'm currently waiting on a double lung transplant and double bypass surgery. It's very interesting. All of the doctors who come in to see me, the first thing they say is, "Your lungs are terrible." I mean, just about like that.
Jeez.
And it was finally explained to me why they do. Okay, to talk to me right now, I'm going to ask you a question. See, I'm going to ask the interviewer a question.
Okay.
I sound like somebody who's functioning on 11 to 14% lung capacity.
No, you sound like your old self, like you've always sounded voicing Frieza and Kai. You speak very fast. You're a machine. You're a machine.
I'll get to that in a minute. But no, I'm functioning on about 11 to 14% lung capacity. And so what the doctor ended up telling me is that they when they look at my charts, they expect somebody that has to be in a wheelchair, who can't groom themselves, can't bathe themselves, can't dress themselves, who can only talk in 4 or 5 word sentences. And as my doctor said, I speak and run on paragraphs.
Yes, you speak very.
And the thing is, for someone with my lung condition, speaking the way I do and the speed that I do is almost like running a marathon. So imagine constantly running a marathon and what that would do to your breathing and your lung capacity. That's kind of what I'm at all the time.
And you do this for a living. I mean, you speak for a living.
Yeah, well, I'm not able to do it as much now. I'm still doing a little bit. I still do a little bit here and there where I can. I'm of course doing the Full Metal Panic for the Funimation simuldubs right now. I'm reprising my role in that, and of course, hopefully when Frieza comes back, I will be doing that. I have every plan to. So.
Well, I can speak for every Dragon Ball fan. I would definitely think so. That we definitely want you back because without going into any major spoilers, Frieza has a huge impact in the next arc. And without going into spoilers, in case you haven't seen it, but the end of Dragon Ball Super. Let's just say that Frieza will be in the Dragon Ball Super movie coming out this December, and putting you back on the big screen with Sean, Chris, and everyone else is a necessity.
Well, I look forward to it. I had such a great time doing Resurrection F. That was so much fun. They brought Crystal and I out to
it was an LA premiere.
They brought us to the LA premiere of the Japanese version. We were there for the LA premiere of the English version. We did San Diego Comic-Con. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was, and I remember. I'll never forget this. When the movie was first announced, they had the dub coming and everything. I'll never forget when Chris Sabat on Twitter, I will never forget this. He tweeted out, because people were asking him, who's Frieza, who's Frieza, because it's a Dragon Ball Z movie, not a Kai movie. And he tweets out, he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Ayres is Frieza." And everybody was like, "Oh, thank goodness." Like, oh, it was such a celebration. You know what I mean?
It's so sweet. That's so sweet. I mean, with the fundraisers and stuff that have gone on, and the amount of outpouring and love from the Dragon Ball fan community, and you know, it has been absolutely stunning. It's really, really been incredibly humbling. You know, I mean, the fans have done so much to take care of me and to let me know that I'm loved, and to encourage me to keep fighting and to keep going. And you know, I will never be able to thank them enough.
Well, we're going to leave links down below in the description for all you guys to check out the different ways you can help Chris out. You caring. There's a bunch of different links I will leave down there for them to go and look at everything.
We've still got some of the autograph things from KamehaCon, the posters and stuff that Crystal has up on her website that you can order and buy there. We got the You Caring page where actually we'll probably be doing some other fundraising coming up in the near future. In fact, a girl that I went to high school with, who is a nationally known artist, who is painting a piece that we're actually going to use for fundraising to auction off or something like that.
Wow!
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I will leave links to all of that, you know, down below. Yeah, definitely support Chris, everyone. Now, let's go back to the beginning. You have been an entertainer since you were 6 years old, doing soft drink commercials?
Wow. Somebody does do their research. Yes. Lollipop Soft Drinks in Richmond, Virginia. It's actually a Virginia company. And yeah, that was actually my first acting gig.
It said, like, I had looked it up, and from what I understand from my research, hopefully it's correct, that you were taking acting classes at 5 years old. How does a 5-year-old, because that's really young, how did you already know you wanted to entertain people?
I was as a child, my parents used to take me to there's a place in Richmond, Virginia called Dogwood Dell, and it was like an outdoor amphitheater type thing, and they had the symphony, different theaters, the ballet, the opera. They had just different things every weekend, and you could go and see stuff for free. And they took me, and that's what I wanted to do. And they found this acting class, and the lady that ran it, my auntie Una, who's one of my mentors, she did not take you at 5. And I was insistent on auditioning anyway.
Wow.
And I auditioned, and it was very funny. She said, well, normally I don't, but I will make an exception in this case. And so I started studying with her, and then right after that, I got the Lollipop commercial and just jumped from thing to thing to thing after that.
What kind of, like, what was it that really drew you into being an entertainer?
It's very funny. Wow, that's amazing. Sorry, Crystal just showed me. She found Lollipop soft drink crates online that you could buy. I was like, oh my gosh.
Did she find any videos with you in them?
No, I have looked for those videos.
It was a huge flop, and the company went out of business after 3 years.
Yeah. I knew that the soda was a huge flop, and the company went out of business after 3 years. I did that. I did a children's television show, none of which I can find footage of, which I would kill to.
Wow.
But there's that. Oh, I'm sorry, to answer your question. I'm not sure. I actually always enjoyed making people laugh as a child. You know, my role models, which is very funny when you think about it now. You know, some of my role models growing up, the people that I admired were Vincent Price, Roddy McDowell. There was a show that I used to love called Laugh-In, and Henry Gibson, and especially Artie Johnson.
Comedians.
They were comedians, and it's very interesting because I liked Artie Johnson and Henry Gibson because they were short. That's why I liked Tim Conway on the Carol Burnett show, because he was shorter. I didn't realize he was a lot taller because next to Harvey Korman, he seemed really short. But two interesting things. One thing I've noted for is doing dialect work. Well, if you look back at the old Laugh-Ins, and it didn't hit me until I started watching some of the old episodes. Artie Johnson, who you know, I grew up, I just idolized him as a child, was their dialect guy. He did Indian, German, Russian.
Like the funny accents?
He did the dialects.
Yeah.
And he went on to do like cartoons and things like that. I mean, he was a well-noted dialectician prior to doing Laugh-In. In fact, when they first hired him, he's like, I don't know why you want to use me. I just do voices. Now it's very interesting that the intonation and my Frieza, the voice is partially, or reads and stuff are a little bit Roddy McDowall, a little bit John Hurt in terms of the reads. I've always thought.
Really? Because it's interesting. Because okay, I was going to ask you this later, but we'll just jump to it right now. Just this, based on what you just said. So when I first discovered you, it was, I think, around 2011-ish, and it was in Kai, because Kai had come out. I watched a little bit of it in Japanese, and then I saw, I think, I don't know if I caught it on television or I saw it online. It's probably a clip online, and it was your Frieza, and I was like, wow, this is different than the previous Frieza. This is more, I mean, I knew that the Kai script was going to be more accurate, but I didn't realize how good that dub was until I heard your voice, and I was like, okay, I got to go back and watch this. So then we watched it all over again. And the one thing that struck me about your Frieza is that even though you did not try to emulate Ryusei Nakao, which is fine, because I think that your character of Frieza still emulates like his spirit and the fact that he's like this bratty, rich, because that's what he is. He's a bratty, rich, imperial, arrogant, yeah, and also in some ways a little bit racist if you really think about it. He's and so I was listening to your Frieza, and I said, this is like Mark Hamill's Joker. Like, it reminded me of that Mark Hamill Joker.
Wow, what a compliment, because he's amazing.
No, I mean, so you're telling me you never, like, it wasn't even a tribute to Mark Hamill at all?
No, not at all.
That's crazy.
I never thought about that. My reads, if you listen to the way they kind of fade off, if you listen to Roddy McDowall,
yeah,
they tend to fade off like that. There's also tends to be some of the wry humor. To me is and also some of the reads tend to be a lot like John Hurt in when he played Caligula in I, Claudius.
Right.
And I love both of those actors. So
it's interesting. I was going to ask you real quick. We're going to go back in just a moment, but when you were first cast as Frieza, I mean, okay. Actually, let's hold off on that. I'm going to get back to that later, because I feel like we should. I want to get back to actually another question I have for you. Then we'll get back to Frieza here shortly. But I wanted to ask you, okay, you did a lot of theater, lots of theater. That was your early career was all theater, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because it's weird, because I've talked to like Cynthia Kranz and Monica and Jason Douglas, and even Eric has talked about this too, about how, even though you're a voice actor and your job is to work in the booth, at least currently anyways, everybody keeps saying to be a great voice actor, you have to be a great actor. But so many people like Chris Rager, Josh Martin, everybody, almost all the major cast of Dragon Ball has specifically said that theater is like their thing. Like, it's so interesting how it's like a common thing. But correct me if I'm wrong, but you were working behind and in front of the stage on theater, right?
Yes, I started out as an actor, and then I became a choreographer. Actually, I started out as an actor, and then I learned stage combat and became a fight director, and from there became a choreographer, and from there became a director, and from there started directing, choreographing, and fight directing shows, and it had actually gotten to the point where I'd actually stopped performing almost. I'd very rarely, I would get on stage maybe once every 2 or 3 years.
Do you enjoy being behind the camera more?
I love directing. Mm-hmm. I enjoy acting, and I will never not enjoy it. But I really do. My preference is directing.
What is it about? Because you said you're specifically a fight choreographer, so that means that your duties are to create compelling and interesting fight scenes where they look good, but the dudes aren't punching each other for real. Kind of like, I guess, like pro wrestling or like a karate movie or something. Like
similar. It's like if you've ever seen take a movie like Princess Bride. Mm-hmm. The sword fight between the Man in Black and Inigo Montoya.
Classic, yeah.
That was all done by a fight director.
Well, I assume that they work on a lot of these movies. I mean, wasn't the lightsaber duels in the prequel trilogy done by fight directors too? I mean, it's in the
Anytime you see something like that, it's done by a fight director. And I did it for stage. I didn't do it for film. which means you're going to call in a fight director from everything from a major sword fight to somebody slapping or punching someone.
And your job is to make it look real.
Your job is to make it look as realistic as possible and make sure that everyone's safe.
That's wow. So
and a lot of fun. I equate it to being a magician.
Were you a fan of like kung fu movies and things like that when you were younger? Like is that what drew you to that aspect of it?
Oh, I actually when I was 12 years old, I did the play Oliver for Theater Under the Stars here in Houston, and Oliver in that show gets roughed up quite a bit by everyone, Bill Sykes, everyone, and they brought in a fight director, and I thought it was amazing that, you know, it looked like people were hurting me, but in reality, they were taking care of me and making sure I didn't get hurt. And I thought that was so cool. And from that point on, I started trying to learn everything I could and studied with anyone I could about it. And, you know, I've gone through the years with different mentors and using different techniques. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Now, you're a big fan of, we know this now, that you're a big fan of horror films, right?
Oh, yes.
I gotta talk to you about this for at least a little bit here. Okay, so what was your favorite horror movie growing up?
Favorite horror movie growing up? What age?
So you probably have a bunch of them then. Okay, then you know what? Whatever. What's your favorite one now? it could be anything.
Okay, can I ask you? Okay, I'm gonna have to put you on the spot. What genre?
Oh, anything. I don't care if it's slasher. I don't care if it's suspense.
Name a genre, and I will tell you. That's what I'm saying. I can't pick just one.
Oh.
If you, Crystal and I have gone through this. If you name us a genre, we will tell you what movie we like.
Oh, that's tough. Okay. I was just gonna ask you which one you watched the most, like if there was one. But I'm thinking here.
Oh, which horror movie I watched the most is a tie, probably between George Romero's original Dawn of the Dead and Dario Argento's Suspiria.
Okay.
Which I'm very excited about the remake coming up later this year. It looks like a completely different film, but he said that he's not trying to do Argento's version. He's doing a version that is inspired by what Argento did.
Well, then Dawn of the Dead would probably be your favorite zombie horror, right? Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's
a full cheese zombie.
What about supernatural horror?
Supernatural horror. Oh, Crystal and I are huge fans of the Insidious franchise.
Really? Are you?
Yeah. Lin Shaye is a demigoddess.
Oh, I love Lin Shaye, and Lee Winnell is great with his lore. I was going to ask you, what do you think about Part 4? Because that one kind of was not liked by many people.
What, the Last Key?
Yeah, The Last Key.
I loved it because it gave us a insight into that character, into her character. And Crystal, she's somebody that Crystal and I consider cinema bacon. No matter what you put them in, it's going to make it better. Well, so having Lin Shaye in anything is going to automatically make it better.
No, and it's funny because the story kind of shifted. The first two films were about, Patrick Wilson's family, and then 3 and 4 kind of became about her, and I like that.
Yeah, I did too.
Did you see A Quiet Place? Just out of curiosity.
I've not seen it yet. And here's the thing: right now, because of my condition, it's very hard for me to get to the movies. Mm-hmm. I have to use a double tank, which is super heavy for me to drag because each of my air tanks only lasts 3 hours.
Yes.
So if I go, I've got to take a double tank, which is very hard for me to drag. Which means and then if I'm dragging it, I can't carry popcorn and drink. So I've got to have somebody come with me to either drag my oxygen or grab my drink and popcorn. I also can't go to a movie theater that has big ramps to go up and down. And it also has to have a bathroom that is fairly accessible. That being said, I said since I've gotten sick, my friend Wes came into town, and he and I went to see Thor Ragnarok. Crystal went to see it. Did we see anything else, baby?
It was really good.
No, Crystal and I went to see it. My friend Steven came into town, and I got to see Infinity War. And then some other friends came into town, and they wanted to see Infinity War as well, so I saw that again. But as a rule, I tend to wait for stuff to come out on DVD or home video, and will then buy it.
And and it sucks because the thing about A Quiet Place is it's hard to really emulate that film at home unless you have a big surround sound system because you know, that film plays with sound a lot. Like, you know, you hear a little distant noise in the left, you know, channel speaker number 15.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, same thing with, well, not Insidious, but The Conjuring. I feel like The Conjuring was an experience in the movie theater, but at home, it's like not that scary.
I don't know. I've seen it both. I've seen The Conjuring. I saw that in the theaters and at home, and enjoyed it both places. So I'm not sure how I feel about. I don't know whether I agree with you or not.
What do you think about the Saw franchise?
I think the Saw franchise is fun. I know a lot of people had problems with Jigsaw, which I mean I enjoyed. I saw it at home. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. You know, I know people throw the word torture porn around a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, the Saw films have never struck me as that, because especially the first one is so smart. You know, it's so smart. And, you know, James Wan was involved, speaking of Insidious.
Right.
So I don't know. You know, I've enjoyed the Saw franchise.
And that's the thing about horror, is that horror has such a... Horror fans are like Dragon Ball fans. Like, they're so into their stuff, right? And it's like, so they're so hardcore with everything, you know? Like, you said you've been to horror conventions. Like, they know everything. Like, they know...
Oh, yeah, they do.
It's crazy.
They absolutely do. And that, you know, it's amazing. It's hard for me to say because I enjoy so many of them.
No, I'm with you. I'll tell you my top three just real quick. And Halloween, the original, Carpenter,
Yes,
of course.
absolutely.
Every time you watch that movie, you find new things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This week, the trailer for the new one is going to drop.
Yeah, which apparently they erased. Okay, I don't know if I like this. So I loved how Halloween 1 and 2 are like, you know, part 1 and part 2. Like, I know it wasn't the original intention, but it's like the next day. With this movie, they're erasing 2. They're erasing everything. So it's a direct sequel to 1. I don't know if I like that.
I'm not crazy about erasing 2.
Right?
But, you know, the thing was, had they let John Carpenter do what he wanted to, there would not have been a Halloween 2.
Yeah, but he helped out with 2, from what I understand.
He wanted to do a different story every year.
Yeah.
Called Halloween.
That's why we have Season of the Witch.
That's why we had Season of the Witch. And audiences, because there was a second one, was like, wait, where's Michael Myers? We hate this.
And that's too bad, because I think that's a great film.
Yeah, 3 is wonderful.
Yeah, and there's a movie that came out a couple years ago called Trick or Treat that reminded me so much of it.
Okay, I'm just going to say this. I was telling Crystal, I just saw that recently. I had not seen it before.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Right?
I love the way it all tied together.
I love that movie.
The separate elements that all came together. It came together brilliantly.
Yeah. No, I love that film. Also, I'm a big fan of Rosemary's Baby, because it's just creepy.
Yeah.
Like just, and then I'm not gonna spoil it because I want people to actually go out and watch this movie.
Don't give away the ending.
No, I can't give away any of it, because the movie, as you're watching it, gets more and more and more down the rabbit hole, and you're like, what the hell's going on? What do you think about Get Out?
Okay, I loved Get Out. I saw it in the hospital. I was a little worried when you said, you know, it came out last year, because I was in the hospital last year.
Right.
But it was, I got to see it. I had my iPad with me in the hospital, and my older brother had come to visit from Tyler. And and he and Crystal and I watched. I downloaded it for Crystal and I to watch because she and I, you know, just live for horror movies. And the three of us watched it together. And I was actually really excited because an old friend and director of mine was in it. He's an actor, and he turns up every now and again in the strangest places. And we were watching. I went, "There's Ruddy." He's an actor named Rutherford Cravens, and
wow.
He was in that. He was in Ray. In fact, he plays the bigoted club owner in Atlanta that goes up against Ray Charles. Yeah, he's wonderful, wonderful actor and a sweet guy.
He's like a character actor?
He's a character actor, yeah. It's very funny because you have people like Ruddy that can play such heavies. You know, when I did Peter Pan, our second Captain Hook was J.K. Simmons.
That's crazy. Seriously?
Well, yeah, he's an old friend. And he, you know, he's so noted for, you know, roles like Whiplash and Oz. And
he's one of my favorites of all time, seriously.
Jameson, where he, you know, it plays such unlikable people. And he is really one of the nicest guys you could ever hope to meet.
No, he's one of my favorites. Like, he's literally, everything he does I love.
He was our second Captain Hook. Most people don't know that he was a musical theater actor.
I remember he was on Oz.
Yeah, but most people don't know that he worked on Broadway and off Broadway for years as an actor.
You know what? That doesn't surprise me because he's so good. I feel like all the really good actors did Broadway, like all of them, like Michael Caine, you know, all the classic ones.
Sorry, I was taking another sip.
No, it's all good.
No, he's wonderful. In fact, if there's any character that he's most like that I've seen, I would have to say he's probably more like the father from Juno. He's just a real kind, down to earth guy.
What's crazy about him is, you know, I followed his career for a while, and then when Whiplash came out and he got all that love, I was like I've been telling people about this dude for years, man. Like I've been telling them about J.K. Simmons, like even before Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. He's wonderful.
Were there any other kind of famous people that you worked with back in the day?
Yeah, there was a guy I went to college with when I went back the second time to college. After I came off tour, I got invited back to study with Stuart Ostro at University of Houston. And there was a young man there who became a good friend. I've not seen him in years, but I directed him in several pieces for Stuart Ostro's workshops. You might have heard of it. It's a guy named Jim Parsons.
What?
From The Big Bang Theory. Yeah, he and Monica and I. Monica was in school then, and yeah, he knew Monica, and yeah, I directed him in several things when he was in college.
So you knew Sheldon pretty much.
Yeah.
That's wow. Like, I mean that, and he's a big TV star now.
Huge TV star and film, and he's doing Boys in the Band on Broadway, and
Wow.
And he's another one like J.K. He's such a nice guy. I could not be more. I'm so happy that good things are happening to him because he's such a nice person. There are so many people that you meet that are really, you know, that yes, make their way up to being famous, and even people that don't make it to be famous that are really just not nice people.
Right.
And I'm always glad when good things happen to somebody who's very nice.
Yeah, no, I am too. There's a lot of even with what I do, I deal with a lot of snakes, but most people, like 99% of them, are good people. Like they're good, especially at KamehamehaCon. There was a lot of love there. Like hopefully you can come one of the upcoming years.
Crystal had the most amazing time there, and I wish I could have been there. It was very sweet. She would every now and again call me so that I could speak to somebody at the table, or would send me videos of people. It was so nice. I felt I was not in the loop, but she constantly made me feel like I was a part of what was going on, and it was so wonderful. She's been my godsend and my angel.
She's amazing to me, and you've known her way longer. So
She is.
I wanted to ask you. Okay, so you did the theater thing for a while. You did acting. You worked, behind the camera as well, or behind the stage. You know what I mean? Were you an anime fan? Were you a fan of? Because I feel like you're somebody who, because you did so much, performing. I feel like you're a fan of, because of also the fact that you like, Dario Argento and that kind of hardcore horror stuff, that you're also kind of a fan of both Western and Eastern film. And I feel like somebody like you, even though I don't know for sure, would have watched anime, maybe not even when you were like a kid, but like, as you were growing up even.
No, I really watched some.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who, he and I would go to Blockbuster, and I got a weird introduction to anime.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy named Tom Cisneros, and we used to do a lot of writing together. And he and I would go to Blockbuster, and that was back when they had a section called Japanimation.
Of course.
And we would get to, okay, well, this looks interesting. Let's get this. So the first thing I saw was a show called Project A-ko. So you turn around, and so I was like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. This was fun. So the next thing we did, we said, well, let's go get another one. So when and we got I think we got Ranma 1/2, but it wasn't the beginning. It was somewhere in the middle of the series, and it was 4 episodes. And so imagine going from Project A-ko to Ranma.
I love Ranma so very much. That's one of those shows that gets lost in the shuffle. Like, everybody talks about 90s anime like Dragon Ball and, Yu Yu Hakusho always gets love, Sailor Moon, and nobody ever talks about Ranma anymore. It's unfortunate.
But like I'm saying, imagine if your first exposure and what you thought anime was Project Echo, and the next thing you saw was Ranma.
Yeah, it's quite the...
And after that, I'd seen Akira and stuff like that. But I was much more of a film and horror film fan. I loved Kurosawa. And you were right to say that you thought that I was a fan of Eastern and Western cinema. Yes, very much so.
Have you ever seen Hausu?
Hausu, yes.
That's a classic, man. You're probably the only other person I know. Well, not the only other one, but one of the few that knows about Hausu.
Oh yeah.
Because that was like a groundbreaking movie. Because I feel like all the toku that came after it was based on that, like those kind of effects. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It was just a great film.
Yeah, that's a classic.
I went for a while where I went through a lot of Asian horror, and if it was an Asian horror, I would buy it.
You mean like Guinea Pig and things like that?
No, I didn't. I've not seen Guinea Pig. I've not seen that whole series.
Like the original Grudge?
Juon, there was actually a film called Jurei that I loved.
Charlie Sheen.
Do you know the Charlie Sheen guinea pig story?
Didn't he thought it was real and then he complained to the government or something like that, right?
Didn't he come? Go ahead, please, Crystal.
He thought
Crystal
that,
Laborde.
the two I've seen was the Mermaid one and Flowers of Flesh and Blood, and he thought that Flowers of Flesh and Blood was a legitimate snuff film and actually contacted the FBI about it.
That's right. Yeah, he thought it was real and he complained. Yeah, that's Didn't that also happen to? I could have sworn something similar happened with Cannibal Holocaust. I could have sworn there was a story similar with that.
Yes, it did.
But they were right to do so.
Yeah, I agree with Crystal. They were right. Okay, the film was banned in a number of countries. Some because they thought that people were actually killed. When you look at the impaling, it looks very real.
Yes, that movie freaked me out when I saw it.
The real reason, and this is why I agree with Crystal, the real reason that people should have a problem with that film is that all of the animals killed in the film were killed.
That's right, the turtle. I remember that.
Not just the turtle. There was a muskrat, a pig. That when they cut the head off of that giant tortoise, I felt sick.
Yeah, I know.
It's one of the few films that I've seen and plan on never watching again.
Yeah, when I found that out, like when I first saw it, I was like, because all right, you know this, like you remember the video store, Eric, because you mentioned Blockbuster, right? Yeah. And you find these rare. Back then they were rare. Now you can get it online. But you find these like obscure films like Zombie Holocaust and and Cannibal Holocaust, and you watch them and you're like, okay, like this is the okay, you've seen Scream and all that mainstream nonsense. No, let me show you the underground horror, and then you know what I mean? That's how I felt when I saw that movie. Okay. And then later on I found out, they did that. I was like, what?
Okay, there's a film that I will tell you about. It's a little harder to find. It's called Sandman. S&Man. It looks almost like S&M Man.
I've never heard of it before.
Most people haven't. I picked it up at a Fry's for $9. It was just in the cutout bin. I was like, it looks okay. It's a horror film. I picked it up. I'm not even going to say. I'm just going to say that when it was over, I immediately, the first thing I had to do was put on a Disney film because it bugged me that much. And then I immediately had to go and start doing research on whether the film was real or not.
So they actually fooled you.
Well, not, because it's a documentary. Wow. Unbelievable. I really, really love that film. Really, and I still love it. It still bugs the hell out of me. And I don't know how they did the last shot of the film. I do not know. My roommate in college was a special effects makeup person, and I've not asked him, so I don't know that he's seen it, but I don't know how they did the last shot in that film. It really, there are certain elements, and once you've seen it, definitely get back in touch with me, and you and I will talk about it. We don't have to do that. We don't do that on the air, but
I don't know if we can, if it's what you're saying, if it's the kind of movie you're talking about.
No. It's a very well done, really interesting film.
So how did you get into so you got into anime, And then how did you get into working on anime?
It pushed. It's very funny. I was directing in Houston, and there were all these people that were doing recording. Monica Rial, Chris Patton, my brother, people like that, and all of them kept saying, "Oh, you need to do this because you do dialects, you do this, and you do that." And I was always like, "Yeah, later." And my brother actually called and made me book the appointment. And had he not done that, I probably wouldn't be doing this.
Wow, I actually never knew that Greg was in first.
Or actually, with theater not having good insurance, I might not even be here at the moment.
Well, so your theater, okay. And so, did you come in to do ADR directing? Like, okay, in other words, what was
I started as an actor.
Okay, as an actor, and then you later on got. Is it even called a promotion? I mean, what do you even call that?
It was kind of a lateral move. They just had some stuff come in that I was the right person to direct it, and they asked me if I would.
So there's conflicting information here that I found. One of them says that the first thing you worked on was Saint Seiya, but according to this, the first thing you worked on was a Gotcha Man. I'm not sure which is the correct. Which one?
And they're wrong.
They're both wrong. Okay, what's the first thing? What was the first project you did in anime?
The first thing I ever did was a show called Kino's Journey.
Wow, that is wrong. Well, they're wrong. You're right. Yes.
Then after that, I did. Hang on, Kino's Journey.
You did Appleseed, right? I remember that.
Yeah, but that was way later. I did Kino's Journey. Then I did started Bastoff Syndrome, and then I did Saint Seiya.
Okay, they have it all weird here. They have Saint Seiya first. Okay, so and then you did Sister Princess and everything else, right?
But that was all much later.
Much later. Okay.
All of that.
So did you, like, at the time? I want to kind of get in your head back then. Was it one of those things where you were doing theater and anime voice acting at the same time just to get multiple paychecks, or were you trying to segue into that business? Like, what was your mindset behind doing theater and direct?
In fact, one of the things that has always bothered me is that I got so involved with the industry that I didn't have time to do theater anymore.
Did you want to do both?
I mean, really, theater has always been one of my first loves. I always will love it. I taught. I was a guest artist with 8 or 9 different school districts, and once I started directing and stuff, I didn't have time to do any of that.
When you started ADR directing?
I've done a theater production in probably, it's been over 10 years. So I was talking to David Devaney today.
So it's been all acting and directing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Or ADR directing. Just clarify, yeah. ADR directing. Okay.
And not for theater, unfortunately.
Is it less stressful because you're not in front of a live audience, or do you kind of thrive on that live audience?
I like a live audience. People say that it's harder to do. I talk to people all the time and say, "Oh, I couldn't do stage. I just want to be a voice actor. I couldn't do stage." I will tell you what. They're like, I couldn't be in front of all those people. It's a lot easier to perform in front of an audience full of people with lights in your face where you can't see them than it is for a director and engineer sitting there waiting on you.
Right? Yeah. Everybody has their own. I guess it's just stage fright, but. It's funny because when I was doing the Kamehacon thing, I was so nervous because I had never spoken in front of a live audience before. That I never have, and then everybody was like, "Wow, you did it!" Because I didn't know, I never got any kind of training. I just knocked it out of the park, which I was very proud of. And it's funny because during that, I know you're into improv, and it's funny because during the panel I had hosted with the 3 Vegetas with Horikawa, Sabat, and Drummond. I had a format in front of me, and literally as we're starting, I said, screw this format. I'm going to ask everything from my head. And it's just, I think what it is that, and you'll know better than me, when it comes to like improv, I feel like when you're in the zone, you have to be in that zone. I don't know how to even describe it. Like when your energy level's up, like you're focused. It's like almost like you're hyper-focused, right? Like it's easy. But if you overthink it, you fall apart.
That's a very good way to put it. I was going to say, it's very interesting that you said that because, you were talking about having being uncomfortable talking in front of, your first time talking in front of people, you were nervous. You are a really, really exceptional interviewer. I've been interviewed by a lot of people, and you are really exceptional.
Why? I mean, I'm not asking for you to butter me up, but
No,
that's crazy that you're telling me this.
No. You do your research, but more important than that, you are easy to talk to. It is very natural. So many times when people do interviews, it comes across very forced, and there's nothing at all that seems forced about anything you say. It's all very genuine and very from the heart. And I will just say you're a pleasure to talk to.
Well, I appreciate that, and well, we have a lot in common either way. I mean, I heard that you were a big fan of Mortal Kombat. Is that true?
There's a weird story about me in Mortal Kombat.
Can you tell a story?
Yes, there's a weird story about me in Mortal Kombat. I'm starting to wonder if the love of my life is how you've discovered a lot of this stuff about me. No, you didn't hear it from you? Wow, wow.
I do my homework, yo.
I appreciate it.
Well, it was funny because I'll tell you a quick story. Recently on Twitter, I was talking to Schemmel, and I started asking him about the French horn, and he was so intrigued by it. And it's like, this is what I tell people, and it's gonna sound weird, but I think you kind of know where I'm coming from. I think you can kind of understand this too. Like, yes, like people who are actors, like yourself, like Sean, like all these people, they are talented, but they're also people, and they're also kind of fans of things too. So I always tell people, I'm like, look, you don't know how many times people come up to Sean Schemmel and probably yourself for different roles, and they say, oh my God, it's Goku. So when somebody's talking about the French horn, it's like, well, wait a minute, this is not just some random fan who you know what I mean? Like that, it's more like you treat them like a person. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm going to ask you this. Have you heard me say something similar to that?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, so cool. Okay, like a great example. Mm-hmm. Crystal and I have the most adorable cat that we have just gotten. His name is Atticus Sphinx Esquire, and he is a Sphinx.
Yes. And
everybody is like, well, did you call him Beerus? Did you call him Beerus? No, that's not his name. It's I'm trying to find a way that doesn't sound
your entire life is not Dragon Ball, which again, I get the same thing you do.
Neither is my family's, neither is my girlfriend's. It sometimes people will throw and like I said, I am so grateful for the Dragon Ball fans for being there for me and for supporting me. But there are times when some people act like that is the only thing, and it kind of overshadows anything that goes on in your life or the lives of your family or your loved ones. And so, somebody said the other day, well, I bet Beerus was the top of the list. And on Twitter, I said, yeah, it was the top of the list of names we weren't going to use. Crystal and I, earlier this year, lost our cat that we had, that we loved dearly. And I came undone when people said, something, well, the Frieza Force is missing, they equated him to losing a member of the Frieza Force. And I'm like, and I was hurting so bad, and I just wanted to scream at people.
Yeah, it's not your fault. Like, I think that the person was trying to comfort you in a weird way, right?
It was very strange, but it really, really hurt Crystal and I to see that, because he wasn't. He was, as I've often said, Nero was best boy. He was my best boy, and we were devastated when we lost him. And now we have this new bundle of no hair to love, and he's a beautiful, beautiful cat. But anyway, back to something that I wanted to say. You were talking about improv.
Yes.
It's so funny. I guess I don't know. I see so many times, and it's very interesting because I've done a lot of improv at conventions, and I very often walk away frustrated, because I've run several improv companies, and you'd be amazed how many people think, oh, well, it's improv, I can just get up and swear, and it's funny.
No, that doesn't work that way.
Or, oh, we'll just get up drunk and do it.
Not everybody can be Richard Pryor now. You know what I mean? He was talented.
Oh, yeah, or Pryor or Carlin, but here's the thing. Pryor and Carlin didn't improvise their routines. They were highly crafted. So people say, oh, well, Carlin, Pryor. No, that was rehearsed. And I'm not going to say have I ever not sworn in improv? No, of course I have. When it's appropriate, when it works. Yeah, but there are some people that use it as a crutch, and they think, oh, because I'm cute, I can swear, and that's brilliant. Oh, people don't expect it out of me. No, what people expect is quality work, and you can't do that drunk off your butt, and you don't have to swear nonstop.
And we're so desensitized now to curse words anyways, you know what I mean? Maybe in the 80s that was more shock value, but now,
Yeah.
like you watch any of those 80s comedies like Police Academy, and
yeah.
you can't do that anymore. You can't tell those jokes anymore. Somebody will get offended, All right, so were you a fan of Dragon Ball before you auditioned for Frieza for Kai? Like, were you a fan of it? Did you watch the old dub? Did you watch this Japanese version? Did you read the manga? What was your introduction to Dragon Ball specifically?
Hold on just 1 second.
Okay.
I will say this. I watched some. I'd seen a little. Crystal knows the show backwards and forwards.
Good.
And is kind of my go-to person on Dragon Ball questions, because there's so much I don't know. I had seen some episodes. I will say, people love to say this, but my first Frieza was Linda Young.
You are a fan of Linda Young.
I love Linda Young. Linda Young was my first Frieza. And I loved her Frieza. There's a lot of people that try to make out that there's some big war between Linda and I, and there's not. She is one of the most wonderful people. That was one thing that I was really disappointed about KamehaCon, was that she and I have never done a convention together, and I've so wanted to, because I've heard so many wonderful things about her, and again, I loved her Frieza. It's but people are very quick to say that, and she also, apparently somebody at KamehaCon asked her, and she's like, no, I don't hate him.
Well, we actually we were under early discussions to do yourself, Linda, and Ryusei Nakao. That was discussed last year. We just couldn't get Ryusei Nakao.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I would. He's someone else I've never met.
Because we did 3 Vegetas. Why can't we do 3 Friezas? Right?
I have never ever met the Japanese seiyuu for any character I've ever done.
That's unfortunate, because I feel like we'd have a great conversation.
I've met a lot of different Japanese seiyus, but I've never met any for any of the roles I've done.
I really wish that you. I wish that you would. The thing about Ryusei Nakao is he uses the same voice for every role, but it's so good. It's so weird.
Yep.
Like it's the same voice, whether he does Tambourine or I think he's Zoro in One Piece as well. He's the Japanese Darkwing Duck. He's the Japanese. I think he's Yakko Warner. It's the same voice, but
Bartok. As pointed out, he does Bartok in Anastasia.
Yeah. But it's the same voice. But it's so good. It's so magnetizing.
Yeah, actually, you can find on that's a good point. Crystal just told me you can find on YouTube him singing the Nations of the World. There's Yannicka.
In Japanese.
He does it in Japanese.
It's
yeah.
Frieza. It's Frieza doing it. Right. So okay.
Yeah.
So when you came in, all right, how did the process go for you to get the role of Frieza? Like, was it one of those things where I know that they were stating that with Kai, they wanted to go in a different direction, more accurate script. Linda was still playing Uranai Baba. She was still, there's rumors about she had a falling out with. No, that's all BS. She was still there.
That's all correct.
Yeah. So okay, was it your vocal performance during the audition process that got you the role? Did Sabit and Raleigh or whoever was in charge back then call you, or how did you end up playing Frieza?
They wanted me to audition, and here's the interesting thing that most people don't know. Michael Tatum was writing the script, and they told him they were going to be recasting Frieza. They didn't know who yet, and so as a writer, Michael always tries to write with somebody in mind. He said, well, I just had to pick somebody. Well, Michael and I had not long before that, he had directed me in Romeo X Juliet.
Yes.
And Michael, the language in that show was so thick. And Michael, I got in there and just did it. Because my background as an actor is in musical theater and classical theater. I love Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So I had this very thick language and just did it. And Michael's like, oh my God, you're classically trained. Thank you. And so we talked about that. And So he decided, I'm going to write this with Ayres in mind.
That's crazy.
So he just wrote it with my rhythms and cadence, and with my my penchant for really thick dialogue. And so when I got it, and when I was recording it, I've never had this situation before, because he had kind of tailored it to what he knew were my strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
Like, it was like doing a role that was written entirely to all of your strengths and none of your weaknesses.
And yet he captured the character perfectly, because like I said earlier, it's not in the cow, but it's still like the immature, you kind of gave it that little accent,
Yeah.
Like he nailed it, and then you nailed it too. So really it was a collaboration between the both of you to kind of bring that character to life in Kai.
And I appreciate that. I will always give him credit for what he did, because he gave me such wonderful language to work with. I mean, let's face it, when you have a line like, "Once again, my dreams of immortality have been crushed against the shores of your incompetence." Once again, the dreams of my immortality have been crushed against the shores of your incompetence.
None of that is in the Z-dub, by the way. None of it's in the Z-dub. That was a totally new line.
How do you go wrong with language like that?
No, I love it. And it makes Frieza this, like, spoiled, like, rich, pompous jerk. And that's what he is,
Yeah. He loves his $5 words.
One of the things that people don't understand about the Frieza character, that's why I was so happy when you came in to do the Frieza character. And again, no disrespect to Linda Young, because she did the best she could, and she was going after Pauline Newstone's a different script.
Yeah, they were going in a different direction.
Yeah, different direction. The thing about Frieza, they did their homework with Kai, because look, and this is very hard. A lot of fans don't know this, but if you read the manga in Japanese, there are certain kanji and katakana that give off a pompous sort of. It's very hard to, unless you speak Japanese, which I do not, but I've been told by several linguists that if you read the Dragon Ball manga, the way that Toriyama writes the words for Frieza is very like proper. He speaks very proper. Goku's a country bumpkin. Frieza is the kind of guy who's like, please hand over the dragon. He's very polite. Please hand over the Dragon Balls, and no harm will come of you. That's how he talks, and then you took that. I don't know if you knew about that from the Japanese manga, or if it was just perfectly matched up.
I actually didn't.
Yeah.
I would love to claim to know everything and say, yes, of course I knew that. That was part of my plan. But it wasn't. I'm not going to lie to you about that.
No, but that's crazy that it wound up coming out so good.
Mm-hmm. It was really really nice conflagrations of events that ran into each other.
Have you seen what they've done with Frieza in the Universal Survival arc?
No, I haven't.
Okay, then we're not going to get into spoilers, but I will ask you this as a follow-up. Do you think that Frieza should be redeemed? Now, I'm not saying it's happened, but I'm saying, do you think that at some point he could become good? Because I feel like that's a character that he's like the Joker, man. He should always be a villain, but part of me kind of wants him to be. I don't know. I'm conflicted on this one.
Here's the thing. Dragon Ball has a history. Crystal and I talked about this.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball has a history of taking people that are bad guys and turning them into working with the heroes. Look at Vegeta. Look at Piccolo.
Right.
I think the one thing that will get in Frieza's way of doing that is his arrogance. I could very much see, in some regards, them using him like an attack dog.
Right.
He's this thing you keep in reserve.
Yeah. Oh man. Are you sure you haven't seen it yet?
No, because you don't know if he'll turn around and bite you. But he but he very well could turn around and bite the hand that feeds him. But it's like, oh, we don't want to do it, but let's let him go.
Yeah. No.
It's very funny because Crystal and I talk about this. I've always, one of the roles, as many times as I've done Peter Pan, one of the roles I've never done is Mr. Smee. And I heard about a wonderful take that Ken Jennings, who was the original Tobias in Sweeney Todd, had when he played it in Atlanta. And I would love to at some point have my hand at trying it. He played Smee as Captain Hook's attack dog. That he was not this comic. He was not this comic. He was not this comic figure. He was dangerous.
Okay. I have to hear it. I have to hear it to kind of get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's Crystal and I were talking about it. That's one of the things. Anybody can beat the crap out of somebody. Anybody can beat the crap out of somebody, but a real hero is somebody that can be a good friend, and that's what makes Goku such a hero. Unfortunately, in the real world, that's very unrealistic.
Right.
But and that's one reason that Frieza will never be a hero.
No, he'll never be a hero. I agree. He's had so many chances, man. Like, Goku's given him so, and he keeps coming back. Like, not just in Dragon Ball Z or Kai or whatever, in GT, now in Super, he's come back like 2 times. Like, he's just, I actually really am hoping that you'll be able to get in the studio, because there's a lot of really, so there's scenes with you and your brother that are coming up that I just cannot wait. I'm really excited for you to go back. I'm gonna pray that you can get in there and do that, because there's a, without spoiling it, there's a very funny interaction with Frost and Frieza that I think you'll have a good time doing it. I really think you will. I'm thinking more and more about it now, and the fact that he's your real life brother that's going to be fun. I actually wanted to ask you about Frost, and we talked about it off air, but I wanted to clear it up for the people. Greg was cast as Frost in Dragon Ball Super, Japanese version that Cal did both. What was the idea behind that? Was it a little wink to the fans, like, oh, it's Chris's brother, aka the other universe Frost, or Frieza?
I really don't know what the powers that be, why the decision was made. I know that our voices have a similar quality, and that's probably what they were going for. I know that those are 2 separate characters.
Yes.
So I know that's why I think they were avoiding using one actor for both.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you have so much range. You probably could have nailed both of them. Because the thing about Frost is that Frieza's got a bad reputation, but Frieza's the kind of guy who's not afraid to kill you to your face and make you suffer, whereas Frost is much more of a snake. Frost's the kind of dude who will, lie, cheat, and steal and manipulate you. You know what I mean? And I just love that they're both bad, but they're different kinds of bad. Yeah.
I think that they wanted to keep them 2 separate characters.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. And I was excited for Greg. He did a great job. So it'll be fun to hopefully play off of him, when it comes down to that.
No, there's just so many great Frieza moments coming up, and I hope that you're in there to do them without question. So, what's the weirdest line you've ever had to say in your voice acting career, or was there any line that made you feel uncomfortable? Because you've done a lot of different types of shows.
It's very weird. We talked a little bit about Dance of the Vampire Bund. I now say that I was in it. I actually purposely had my name not included in the cast list.
Really?
Although several people. Well, you got to remember at the time I was also working with a lot of different schools, and you look at the nature of Dance of the Vampire Bund and the nature of the scene that I was in.
I see.
And I just felt that it would not go well for some of the school districts or the teachers that hired me. That somebody might get upset. So I just asked politely if they could not include my name on that,
And for the record, that anime has actually been blacklisted by the Chinese Ministry of Culture. Like, it's a controversial show. Like, is there any role in history, okay, and we're talking about American cartoons, we're talking about Japanese, that you wish you could have voiced? Like, that you said, you know what, I could do that and I could do it good.
Oh, God, I'm trying to...
Like Mickey Mouse. I don't know.
Yeah, I will tell this story. I literally got rid of an agent one time. A casting director who used to be here in Texas and ended up casting for Disney. I used to do public appearance work as Beetlejuice.
Really?
Yes.
I never, like Universal Studios type stuff?
No. For a company here in Houston. And I would do it at Astroworld and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a company that I did public appearance work as, I did Chaplin, I did Groucho Marx, I did all kinds of stuff for them. But one of the things I did was Beetlejuice. Well, this casting director found out that I did, and he went bananas over the impression. And every time I got called into audition for him, he'd say, "Okay, well, do all the lines as Beetlejuice." So I would. So I finished one time. I finished an audition. He goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know, they're about to start doing a Beetlejuice cartoon, and you need to have your name submitted."
Wow.
He said, "Go and let your agent know. Tell her that I told you about it, and stay on top of her." And I said, "Okay."
Was this the original Beetlejuice animated series from the 90s?
Hang on. So I went to my agent and I said, "Hey, Ed told me that there was going to be this, they're going to be doing Beetlejuice, that I need to be submitted for it, blah, 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 blah." And he said, and she's like, "Okay, I'll look into it." So I called back a few days later. She hadn't heard anything. And I called back a few days later, and she hadn't heard anything. And I kept calling back because he told me to be persistent. So finally, she said, "No, I've looked into it, and they're not going to do it. They were talking about it, but they're not going to." Well, imagine my shock, and so I was like, "Oh, well, that's a shame. It would be a really cute cartoon." So imagine how I felt several months later, or actually about a year and a half later, when the Beetlejuice cartoon came out. And that's when I quit that agent.
Jeez, yo. So it was the original cartoon.
I'm not going to say that I would have gotten it, but it would have been nice to have been able to audition.
So that was the original, the ABC one, right? Correct?
Yeah.
I thought that was in Canada. I could have sworn that was a Canadian thing.
It may have been, but at least let somebody submit a tape for it.
Right. Yeah, it was voiced by somebody named Stephen Omet.
But for her to turn around and not do the work and then say, "No, they're not going to do it."
Yeah, yikes.
And I was like, "Nope, I don't need somebody like that representing me."
No, they got to get you the good stuff, right?
What?
They got to get you the good stuff.
No, I didn't get anything, any of the work I do through agents.
They mean anime.
Oh, yeah, anime, yeah. I didn't get into anime through agents.
So you're basically your own agent then, is what you're telling me.
I actually don't have an agent.
So you also have done a lot of video games. Are you a gaming fan? I know we talked about Mortal Kombat earlier. Are you a fan of just the Mortal Kombat like lore or the actual gameplay? Because I feel like with Mortal Kombat, a few years in the middle, it kind of fell off, and they really came back with Mortal Kombat 9. So
I always enjoyed Mortal Kombat. I've not played any of the recent games because I don't have a system to play. But I said I was going to tell you a funny story about Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
At conventions, a lot of times at autograph sessions, we've got a long line, I'll play with people. I'll just be silly and stuff. And for a while there, when I'd see, when I'd sign for somebody and they'd walk away and somebody else was waiting and not walking up, I'd go, "Get over here."
That's awesome.
For a while there, people started going, "That's the guy that's the voice of Scorpion." No. Contrary to rumor, I do not do the voice of Scorpion. I just say, "Get over here."
You fooled them, though, because you made them. You sound like the actual guy.
I don't think I do, but people said that, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that the true talent of voice acting is, to me, I mean, there's two different ways to approach it. There's, you have a cool sounding voice and we can cast you, and then there's like the ability to have range. And I feel like with your voice, and the fact that you have different dialects and whatnot, you have a lot of range. You can play kind of different characters,
Thank you.
Right? Like, and that to me, I think is like true like voice acting, which is why I really respect those old school like the Harmony Gold and the Ocean Dub people, because even though Funimation has pretty much conquered the universe as far as anime goes, I have a lot of nostalgia for them because they're pioneers, but they do they put like their all into it. They actually like really act. And I'm not saying Funimation doesn't, but I'm saying my first exposure to like, voice acting from like an anime perspective, obviously there's other things.
Yeah.
Rob Paulson is like a legend. They really put their all into it, and you can kind of tell with the performances. Was there ever any time when you voiced like Frieza or really whomever that your voice was just shot? Because Frieza screams, but probably not as much as Sean Schemmel's Goku. But I feel like Frieza screams a lot. Was there any time that your voice was just like done?
Yes and no. You have to remember, in terms of singing, there's a phrase called placing it in the mask, which is if you were to sing and say, "Hi, my name is Kim," and you would really nasal it up and go, "Hi, my name is Kim," you could feel it vibrating all around the front of your face.
Right.
That's what they call by putting it in the mask. Well, most of Frieza's up there, so it's not in my throat.
It's in your nose.
Scream, all the tension is taken off my cords, so I can do a lot of screaming in that voice without it really doing a lot of damage. When we recorded Resurrection F, we recorded all of the dialogue over the course of 2 days and all of the fight stuff in 1 day. But it was like 7 hours of fight stuff. And the only thing that we didn't do was the last few lines after the fight. Was the only thing we didn't record prior. So that way when that kind of raspy quality that you get at the end of Resurrection F was because of the fact that I'd been screaming for like 7 hours. Chris Bevins and I used to do a panel together, and we do it with any other director. But we called the panel, Chris Says Do It Again. And it was basically about ADR directing.
So it's like the George Lucas thing, faster and more intense?
Exactly. You just do it, and you say, oh, make the back half faster, make the front half slower. You've got to tweak stuff to make it work.
I mean, it's just all about getting the perfect take, I guess. I mean, that's your decision, right?
Well, yes, it is your decision as director, usually. It's very funny. I have always in the past said that all the decisions come down to the director. That is not necessarily always true.
You mean the corporation might get involved? And because I've heard stories we can't talk about here on the air about certain corporations trying to meddle with the directors and the translators. Heard stories.
Directors, translators, talent. Yeah, that happens sometimes, depending on the company. Sometimes choices you make as a director are changed. Sometimes, very often, choices that you want. Sometimes casting. A lot of times now, casting decisions are not your own. Which is weird because I've always said that the casting comes down to the director's decision and stuff like that. And now I'm not sure how I would answer questions like that if they came to me.
Before we close out, do you have any suggestions for people who want to get into theater versus voice acting? Like, I know because you've done both. Like, and also, do you have any advice for people who want to work behind the scenes?
I've not done a ton of on screen, and there was a story that I was going to tell you back about when I first started as a kid that I will tell you before, but I'll close with that. But my advice, if you want to become a stage actor, is the same as if you want to become a voice actor, the same as if you want to become a film actor. Study, learn to act. And take any opportunity you can. If you may end up setting out to be a stage actor and find out that, wow, opera's my thing, or dance. I worked with a guy for years in musical theater, and he moved off, he left town, and all of a sudden now he's working with several dance troupes in New York, and he became a dancer. Who knew?
Life is funny like that.
In fact, I met him involved in a show with an opera program. So, I always knew him as a singer. So real quick, I was going to tell this story. We were talking about things that I did as a kid, and this is one that I wish I could find. When I was very young, not long after I've been, so I was probably like 10 or 11, so it was not long before I moved. In fact, it was just before we moved to Houston, so I had to be about 11 because we moved when I was 12. I did a commercial, it was a public safety announcement in Virginia. There was a period of time where people were running railroad tracks and getting hit by trains.
Whoa.
So they did this public service announcement with this little kid, which I looked like a little kid, playing with a train set, talking about cars running, and he was, had a train, and he was hitting the car with the train, and then you try to do this, and the train hits, and you try to do this, and talking, and then it pulled back, and the train board that I was sitting at was set up on a train track with a locomotive behind it. And you saw the scale of a child to a train.
Yeah.
Great commercials. Very popular. Ran for a long time in Virginia. But right after that, I moved to Houston. And a number of years later, when I was in my early 20s, one of my grandparents passed away, and we went back to Virginia for the funeral. And I got to go out with one of my childhood friends, and he wanted me to meet some of his friends, so we went out, and Jay was trying to brag And he said, "Hey, do you guys remember the train commercial with the kid sitting on the track in front of the train?" And one of the girls said, "Yeah, isn't it a shame what happened to him?" And
Oh no.
Jay started to introduce me, and Jay started saying, "No, no, no," and I kicked him. And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Oh, you wouldn't know because you're from Texas. There was this commercial, and she described the entire commercial that I had done."
Yeah.
And said that apparently this kid made so much money from this commercial, this public service announcement that paid very little, actually. This kid made so much money from this commercial and from it running all the time on television that he bought a car. And on his 16th birthday, he was driving his new car and ran a train track signal and got hit by a train and killed.
What?
And I said, "Oh, that's horrible." He said, "Yeah, isn't it awful?" And when we left the bar, it was a restaurant, Jay said, "Why didn't you tell them that was you?" I said, because I would much rather be the urban legend of the kid that did that commercial and died than be the reality of that kid growing up. I just think that was a lot cooler. So I told the story at a convention in Virginia.
Wow.
And 2 people came up to me and said, "Oh my God, I remember that commercial." And yes, I'd heard that story too.
Who made that up? Where did that even come from?
Well, think about it. I did a lot of television and commercials and theater and stuff in Virginia. And then I did that commercial. And not long after that, we moved to Texas. And so all of a sudden, I wasn't doing commercials or television or theater. I kind of vanished.
Yeah, but somebody just made up that story about you buying the car and all that stuff. Like, that's just made up.
Yeah, it is.
I don't understand why somebody would just make up a story like that.
He doesn't account for the gap between commercial and 16.
And that's true. Like Crystal said, the fact that the time gap between that commercial and when I was 16, that story does not account for the time gap between that commercial and when I would actually have been 16.
Well, the thing is, I thought that they meant that you bought the car when you were a little kid. Like, you actually bought the car when you were like 6,
No.
Because then it would have been even more wacky. Then it's like, okay, now you're screwing with me.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's my weird story from back when I was younger and doing stuff.
It's just I've always found it strange, but strangely amusing as to how kids lie about stuff like that. Like, they lie, and it's like back in the day, like, remember Mortal Kombat, in fact, we can go there. Yeah. That rumor about how if you play the game you can like see Sonya get naked, that was all a lie, but every elementary school had that one kid who said that.
I've heard all kinds of horrible rumors about Crystal. I've heard all kinds of horrible rumors about other people. And none of the rumors about Crystal are true. I know that because I know her.
Of course.
I'm obviously not dead.
Right.
So you've got to be careful believing, what you hear. I mean, that's why I'm glad that you've kind of done your research on stuff. I'm really glad that you've done your research, and know things that you know.
Well, I appreciate that, but at the same time, I also, there's a few things that obviously I don't know, but I asked you about. But it's still one of those things where, I'm decent at sniffing out the BS, and I mean, I gotta be honest. If I was in Virginia and I heard that story about the kid that wasn't you, but they thought it was you, I wouldn't have bought it. That's a fairy tale. It's just yeah. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet, folks. So with that said, thank you, Chris, so much for being here. Do you have any final messages you want to send out to the people? Anything you want to say to them? The floor is yours.
Let me finish chewing this gyoza first.
Our first guest ever on Icons who is eating while we're recording.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I like that kind of stuff. I like making history.
Because right as you said that, I put the gyoza in my mouth.
Bad timing.
That's okay. Yeah, the only thing that I want to say, I really want to take a moment, because I know this is primarily listened to by the Dragon Ball community. I really want to thank them for all that they've done to help me and to support me and to be there for me and Crystal. And because this has not just been hard on me. This has been incredibly hard on her. My illness and stuff. I mean, most people don't know it, but the whole time I was in the hospital, she spent every night in the hospital at my side.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And she did all of that while going to law school. She's really, like I said, when I've said that she's my angel, I'm not joking. That I would not be, because she's my angel in Dragon Ball. But
not one night long.
I did not
What?
hear what she said.
At barbecue.
Oh yeah.
Not a single night. in the
That's true.
hospital was
That's
in
very
bed
that's very
at
true.
barbecue.
That's very true. Just before the bar exam, my brother had come into the house, and my mom was making him barbecue, and it was very loud and everything. Poor Crystal had been trying to study, and it was the day of the bar exam, wasn't it? Yeah, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and there was barbecue going on in the other room, and poor thing was trying to sleep. It was not good. But yeah, I just wanted to thank all of the Dragon Ball fans for being there for us. The love and generosity and support people have shown. And I know you did a lot to help with fundraising yourself, my friend.
We're still working on that, yo. We got a long way to go. Well, we'll have a long way to go. So
Yeah, but I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna be okay. Like I said, we've still got miles to go. But I'm keeping my my strength, my spirit, my faith, and my sense of humor strong, and that's really all you can do. And like I told somebody one time, I tell people when they ask me how I'm doing, I say I have good days and not so good days. And somebody said, "Do you have bad days?" And I said, "No, because I'm not back in the ICU."
as long as you're out of there, you're good.
The thing was, a little over a year ago, when I almost died 3 times, those were bad days.
Yeah.
The fact that I can sit here and talk to you and not be in the ICU, and yes, I mean, every day is a challenge. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are some days that are not easy. In fact, prior to calling you to this interview, I was on my BiPAP for how long, sweetie?
About 2 hours.
I was on the BiPAP for about 2 hours. Crystal and I had gone out today. We had done a little bit of shopping. We had gotten you saw the glove thing for Atticus.
Yes, earlier.
The pet store, and we had gotten the stuff for Atticus. We had gone out to eat, and being out in the Texas heat and stuff gets to me. And so I came back. I was a little short-winded, so I put on the BiPAP and laid down until just before we called you. And so so it's like I said, I try to keep smiling. I try to keep having a good time. That I keep thinking when I talk about the days in the ICU. But I had been in the ICU, and they put me in a regular room, and it was like I closed my eyes and I opened them, and I was in a different room.
Whoa.
And I asked Crystal, I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Where am I?" She said, "Baby, you're in ICU."
Oh
I'm
my.
like, "What have I been doing in ICU?" I said, "What am I doing in ICU?" She goes, "I've been in ICU for over a week, and my carbon level in my system had jumped up to 89%, which is as close to lethal as you can get.
Yeah.
And my carbon level jumped up that high, and they had to rush me back to the ICU, and I was out of it for almost a week. And apparently I was up and talking because I kept wanting to take selfies. I kept wanting to take what? Oh, I had a dream about an amusement park that was like a water park filled with juices.
That
And
sounds awesome.
I kept talking to Crystal about going to the juice park. Carbon-induced frenzy, I
Well,
guess.
wait a minute. Wait, so you were swimming in the juice?
Yeah, in my dream, yeah.
That's like how I was talking.
That's exactly the way Crystal.
I think I'd stay away from the lemonade flavor, though. Be honest with you, if you know what I'm saying.
I was mainly talking about orange, apple, and grape. I don't think I ever said lemon juice. It was always orange juice, apple juice, and grape juice.
Oh, okay. Well, apple juice kind of looks like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I was just thinking about good days and bad days, and that day that I woke up and it was like a week later, and it was like, what?
But hey, you're still hanging in there, and I mean, I appreciate the time you spent with me this evening, and
I appreciate you're taking the time to talk to me.
no, I never thought that I would, to be honest with you. I never thought that I would.
Congratulations on so many subscribers.
Well, thanks. No, and I really do hope that, that everything goes well for you, and that you come back strong, and that you voice Frieza forever. Honestly, because
Thank you, I appreciate that. Well,
yeah.
I plan on trying to.
No, I absolutely. I mean, and not just Frieza, other characters too. But I mean, that's the one that resonates with me the most. Plus, Dragon Ball is just never gonna end, man. Like, there's gonna be new stuff always coming out, new games. There will always be something.
That's what somebody told me when I got cast. They said it's the gift that keeps on giving.
It's endless. Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe One Piece is the only one that comes close. I told Colleen at Kamehacon, I said the good thing about being in One Piece, you always have a job, no matter what.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thanks everybody for checking out the interview. I will leave links down below to all of Chris's, social media, as well as the various different ways you can help Chris out. And we definitely have to come together as a community to do that. And thank you, sir. Oh, that's right. You told me don't call you sir, but I still have to say sir.
Don't call me sir. I've not been knighted.
Well, you kind of should be, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
You kind of should be. I mean, you sound like a British guy sometimes. So there you go.
Thank you, that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Later.